There is a moment, a specific, fleeting, unguarded moment when a man will tell you everything about how he feels for you. Not in a speech, not in a grand gesture, not in a text message he's had 3 hours to craft and perfect. It happens when his guard is completely down. It happens in the quiet spaces of real intimacy, when the performance is over, when the armor is off, when the version of himself that he shows the world has gone to sleep for the night. And in those moments, he will say things he cannot take back, things he doesn't even realize he's said. Most women hear those words and brush them off. They think, oh, it's just the moment, it doesn't mean anything. But it means everything. If you've ever been close to a man, truly close, and wondered, does he actually love me, or am I just here? This video was made for you, because what I'm going to show you today are 7 specific things men say during their most vulnerable moments that reveal they are already falling in love. Not just attracted, not just comfortable, in love. And most of them have no idea they're doing it. By the end of this video, you will never again mistake a man's emotional honesty for just talk. You'll know exactly what to listen for. And more importantly, you'll know what it means about where he really stands with you. Stay with me. This changes everything. Here's what nobody tells you about modern dating. You can spend months with a man, texting every day, seeing each other every weekend, building a whole rhythm of life together, and still not know where you stand. You can lie awake at 3 a.m, turning over the same question. Does he really love me? Or am I just convenient? You've tried to read the signs. You've analyzed his texts. You've asked your friends. You've maybe even asked him and got an answer that felt like warm soup when what you needed was something solid, something you could hold on to. And the frustrating thing? Men aren't always lying when they give you vague answers. Sometimes they genuinely don't know what they feel. Sometimes the emotions are there, fully formed, living in their chest, but they haven't caught up to the language yet. Men process love differently. Not worse, not better, differently. For most men, love doesn't arrive as a declaration. It arrives as a behavior. It slips out in unguarded moments. It leaks through the cracks of their composure when their conscious brain has stopped monitoring the situation. And there is no moment in adult life where a person's conscious brain is more off duty than during intimacy. I'm not just talking about the physical act itself. I'm talking about those hours before, during, and especially after, when two people are stripped of pretense, when the carefully managed image dissolves, when what's real in a person has nowhere left to hide. That's when he tells you the truth. Not with a speech, with a sentence. Sometimes with just 3 words that aren't "I love you," but mean it more deeply than those words ever could. You've been trying to figure him out by watching what he does in public, but the real map to his heart is in what he says in private. Let me show you exactly what to listen for. The first thing to listen for isn't dramatic. In fact, it's so subtle that most women completely miss it. But once you hear it, you'll never unhear it. It's a single word. We. Not I, not you, we. When a man is in a purely physical situation, when he's not emotionally invested, his language stays self-focused. He talks about what he wants, what he feels, what he likes. Even if he's charming and attentive, the grammar of his desire is singular. But when a man is falling in love with you, something shifts in his language without him even noticing. In those quiet, unguarded moments of real closeness, he starts speaking in plural. We should do this again. I love that we can be like this together. This is us, this right here. That tiny grammatical shift is enormous because we is a future tense word. We implies continuity. It implies that in his mind, at least in this moment, he is not thinking of you as a separate person he happens to be with tonight. He is thinking of you as part of a unit, part of his story going forward. Think about a man you've been with who wasn't invested. Really think. Was he saying we? Or was he orbiting around himself, occasionally acknowledging you were there? Now think about someone who felt different. Someone who, in those unguarded moments, spoke as though you were already woven into his future. There's a reason that felt different. Because it was. Sarah had been seeing James for about 4 months. Things were good, but she wasn't sure how serious he was. One evening, lying quietly together after a particularly connected night, James said, unprompted, "We'd love it there. That cabin up north. We should go before winter." He said it so naturally, like it was already decided, like she was already in his future, already booked in. He didn't make a thing of it. She almost didn't catch it, but she did, and she was right to. 3 years later, they were engaged. A man who speaks in we during his most vulnerable moments isn't performing togetherness. He's revealing it. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's something about men who aren't emotionally invested. They are present in the most narrow sense of the word. They're there for the experience. They're not particularly curious about what's going on behind your eyes. But a man who is falling in love with you, he gets curious. And not just in the way that's polite or performative. He asks questions he doesn't need to ask. Questions that have nothing to do with the moment you're in. You're lying there in the warmth and quiet of real intimacy, and out of nowhere he asks, "What did you want to be when you were a little girl?" Or, "Do you think you're more like your mum or your dad?" Or, "What's the thing you're most afraid of?" These are not small talk questions. These are excavation questions. These are the questions of a person who is trying to understand you at a level deeper than the surface, who wants to know not just your body, but your history, your fears, your inner world. And the timing matters, because in those unguarded moments of closeness, when the social performance is over and both of you are just human together, that's when a man's real curiosity comes out. That's when he stops asking what you want for dinner and starts asking who you actually are. Because he's starting to realize he wants to know. He's starting to realize that understanding you matters to him in a way that goes beyond convenience or attraction. Emma had dated enough men to know the difference between being desired and being seen. Most men, when the moment was right, got quiet. Comfortable quiet. Not bad, but they weren't particularly curious. Then she met Daniel, and she noticed that every time they were close, really close, he'd start asking her things. Once, he asked her about the saddest she'd ever been. Another time, he asked what she thought happened after we die. Heavy, real questions. Questions that meant he was lying there thinking about her, about what made her her. I realized, Emma told me, that he wasn't trying to impress me in those moments. He was trying to know me. And that's when I knew it was different. A man who asks the deep questions in the quiet moments isn't making conversation. He's falling in love with your answer. Now, this next one might surprise you. I want you to pay very close attention to this one, because this is the one that will stop you in your tracks. This is the one that when you've experienced it, you already know, even if you've never been able to explain why. It's the way he says your name. Not in text, not in public, not across a restaurant table. In those quiet, intimate, unguarded moments. The way your name sounds when it comes out of his mouth, and there's weight behind it. There's a difference between a man who says your name as a label to get your attention, to fill a pause, and a man who says your name like it's something precious, like the syllables of it actually mean something to him. When a man is deeply in love, your name stops being a word. It becomes a feeling. And that feeling comes through in how he says it. Slower, softer, with a kind of reverence that you can feel in your chest even if you can't describe it. He might say it when you're not even expecting it. You're talking about something mundane, or you're lying in silence, and then, quietly, like he's saying it to himself, he says your name. Not to ask you anything, not to start a sentence, just because it was there, in his mouth, because you were there, in his world, and something in him needed to acknowledge that. Think about that for a second. Your name, said like that, is an act of love. It is him putting your existence into sound and offering it back to you like a gift he didn't know he was giving. I have spoken to hundreds of women about the moment they knew. The moment where something shifted and they thought, this is real. He actually loves me. And more times than I can count, one of those moments is a quiet memory of him saying their name in a way nobody ever had before. There's science behind this too. Research shows that when people are emotionally bonded to someone, their voice naturally softens and slows when speaking to that person. It's an autonomic response. He cannot fake that. His nervous system is telling the truth even when his brain hasn't formed the words yet. Lisa had been with Rob for 6 months. She was starting to feel things she was scared to name because she wasn't sure he was in the same place. One night, very late, lying in the dark after a long emotional conversation that had brought them both closer than ever before, Rob went quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice she'd never heard from him before, gentle, almost wondering, he said her name. Just Lisa. Nothing else. No question, no request. Just her name. Like he was tasting it. Like it mattered to him. I started crying, she told me, and I didn't even know why at first. But I knew. I absolutely knew. When a man says your name in the dark with no reason and every intention, he's not speaking a word. He's saying, I love you, in the only language he has right now. And if you think that was powerful, wait for this. This one seems small, but it is one of the most quietly profound things a man in love will do. in an intimate, vulnerable moment, he looks at you, or he says it to the ceiling, or he says it into your hair, and he says, thank you. Not for anything you've just done, not as a transactional response, not even attached to a full sentence always. Just, thank you. Or, I'm really glad you're here. Or, thank you for being you. When a man says this, he is having a moment of emotional overflow. Something inside him is too full. Gratitude, warmth, wonder at the fact that you exist and you are here with him. And that fullness has to go somewhere. So it comes out as gratitude. Because gratitude is the safest, least threatening way for a man to express profound emotion when he isn't yet ready to say the bigger thing. He's not thanking you for a favor. He is thanking the universe that you landed in his life. And here's what makes this so important. It's unscripted. Nobody coaches themselves to say thank you in an intimate moment. It's not a move. It's not strategy. It bubbles up from somewhere real, from a place in him that has already decided on some deep level that you matter, that your presence in his life is a gift. When you hear this, receive it. Don't deflect it. Don't laugh it off. Don't say for what in a way that diminishes the moment. Just look at him. Let it land. Because what he is telling you in the only vocabulary he has right now is that he loves you. After a particularly tender night together, Priya's boyfriend Marcus lay quietly for a moment, then said softly, "Thank you, genuinely, for all of it." Priya almost made a joke, almost, because the vulnerability of the moment felt big and she wasn't sure what to do with it. But she stopped herself. She just said, "I'm glad I'm here." Marcus pulled her closer and didn't say another word. He didn't need to. "That was the night I stopped wondering," Priya told me. "I just knew." An unexpected thank you in a quiet moment is a man's heart speaking before his brain has a chance to edit it. But we're not done yet, because the next one is where most women miss the biggest signal of all. A man who is not in love with you is always, on some level, keeping an exit strategy open. It might be unconscious. He might not even know he's doing it. But men who aren't fully in, men who are keeping their options comfortable, do not volunteer the future. A man who is in love does something completely different. He starts talking about the future as though it's already decided. Not in grand declarations, not in proposals or big speeches. He does it casually, offhandedly, like he's not even saying something significant. When we go to Italy, you'd love Rome, by the way. Next Christmas, we should actually do something really different. I was thinking, when we eventually live together, we'd need a place with a garden. The casualness is the tell. Because if he were performing a future, he'd make it a moment. He'd look you in the eyes and say it as a statement of intent. But when he believes the future, when it's already real to him in his imagination, he mentions it the way you mention the weather. Matter-of-factly. Because in his mind, it's not a hope. It's a plan. This is especially powerful during those unguarded, intimate moments, because that's when his internal world is most accessible. When he's not managing his image, he's not protecting himself from vulnerability. And so the future he's been quietly building in his head comes out. He doesn't even realize he just gave you everything. Naomi had promised herself she wouldn't fall too fast. She was being careful, guarded. Then, one evening, lying together in comfortable silence, her partner David said, completely out of nowhere, "You know, when we have a dog, it should be a rescue. That feels right." They had never discussed a dog.
They had never discussed living together.
He said it the way you'd say, "I think it's going to rain," like it was just known. Naomi didn't say anything. But inside, something settled. "He wasn't trying to impress me," she said. "He was just telling me what was already true in his head." When a man talks about your shared future like it's already scheduled, he's not making plans. He's showing you a world he's already living in his heart. Now here's one that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most honest signal of all. In those quiet, close moments, something ancient wakes up in a man who loves you. He'll notice you're cold before you say anything and pull you closer. He'll reach out to move your hair from your face, not because it's in the way, but because he wants to see you. He'll say things like, "Are you okay?" or "Tell me what you need," with a gentleness that feels different from politeness. It feels like care.
And then there's the verbal version of this.
He says something protective, not in a controlling way, not in a "you need me to save you" way, but in the way of a person who suddenly feels in their bones that your well-being matters to him personally, that something happening to you would happen to him. He might say, "I don't like that your boss treats you like that. That's not okay." Or he might say, "You work too hard. I worry about you." Or in a very quiet moment, he might simply say, "I've got you." That phrase, "I've got you," in a moment of real intimacy is not a throwaway line. It is a vow. It is him telling you, without the formal ceremony, that he has chosen to stand on your side. That your safety and happiness have entered his list of responsibilities, the ones that come from the inside, not the ones he was asked to take on. When a man loves you, your pain becomes his pain. And that doesn't stay hidden. It comes out in these small, unscripted moments of protectiveness, in quiet words that carry the whole weight of a heart that has decided you are his to care for. Claire had been dealing with a difficult family situation for weeks. She'd mentioned it to the man she was seeing, but tried not to make it a big deal. One night, in a particularly vulnerable, quiet moment, he held her and said, "I want you to know, whatever you're going through with your family, you don't have to carry that alone anymore. I'm here." She hadn't asked for that. He offered it freely. It was the first time, Claire told me, that I genuinely felt like someone had my back. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. "I've got you," said in the dark by a man who didn't need to say it, is love in its purest, most unedited form. And now, the final one. And I've saved it for last because it's the most powerful and the one that will stay with you long after this video ends. Everything we've talked about so far has been about what he says. But this last point is about what happens when he stops saying anything at all. There's a difference between two kinds of silence. There's the silence of a man who is disengaged, disconnected, already thinking about something else, somewhere else, present in body only. You've felt that silence. It has a particular quality to it. It creates distance. It leaves you feeling somehow more alone than if you were by yourself. And then there's the other kind of silence. The silence of a man who is so present with you, so full of what he's feeling, that he has gone beyond words. He doesn't need to say anything. He is just there, fully, completely, and almost overwhelmingly there. And the silence isn't empty. It's dense. It has weight. You can feel him in it. He might hold you closer in that silence. He might look at you, really look, in a way that doesn't feel like an examination, but like a man memorizing something he is terrified to lose. His breathing slows. His whole body softens. And the silence says, I am here. I don't want to be anywhere else. I am not performing this. I am living this. And sometimes, he breaks that silence with the quietest, smallest words. Not I love you, necessarily. Sometimes it's don't go, when he knows you have to leave. Sometimes it's stay a little longer. Sometimes it's just this is good. 2 words, and they hold a universe. The man who loves you cannot always find the language for what he feels. But if you pay attention, if you learn to listen not just to his words, but to the texture of his presence, you will feel it. In the silence, in the weight of his arms around you, in the way time moves differently when you're together in those moments. That silence, that full and wordless and unashamedly present silence, is a man telling you he loves you in the language men speak before they've learned the words. After about 8 months together, Zoe wasn't sure if Marcus was ready to say the words. They'd had a long, beautiful evening together, and as she was about to leave, he held her at the door. Just held her, for what felt like a very long time. No words, just holding. Then quietly, almost into her hair, he said, I really don't want you to go. That was it. But the way he said it, the weight of it. She told me later, I heard everything he couldn't say yet. I heard all of it. The silence of a man in love is not empty. It is the loudest thing you will ever hear from him. So let's come back to where we started. You've been trying to figure out where you stand. You've been analyzing texts, reading signals, asking friends, lying awake at night wondering if what you have is real or if you're imagining the depth of it. And what I want to tell you, what I need you to hear is this. Love in men doesn't usually arrive as a speech. It arrives as a moment, as a word that wasn't planned, as a silence that holds more than any sentence ever could, as a we that slipped out before he could stop it, as your name said like it was something precious, as I've got you spoken to the dark. The signs have probably already been there. You just needed someone to hand you the key. But I also want to say something else, because this video isn't just about him. It's about you. Because the woman who understands these signs, who knows what to listen for in the real, unguarded moments, is also the woman who shows up with her guards down.